Do deeply emotional people always look emotional? You might imagine someone who cries easily, reacts instantly, raises their voice, or tells everyone exactly how they feel. Not always. Some people do not break down in public. They do not explain every wound. They do not let their face reveal the storm too quickly. But that does not mean nothing is happening inside. Sometimes the calmest person in the room is not untouched. They may simply be processing everything in silence. And you might know someone like this. Maybe even you. This video is not about people who are secretly cold, mysterious, or impossible to read. It is about something much more ordinary and much more misunderstood. Some people feel things, but they do not display them right away. They can be hurt and still answer calmly. They can be overwhelmed and still keep their voice steady. They can care deeply and still look almost untouched on the outside. That is not the same as feeling nothing. In emotion regulation, suppression and expression can be understood as distinct processes. In simple terms, showing emotion and holding emotion back are not just opposite ends of one line. They are different ways the mind can manage what is happening inside while dealing with the world outside. So when someone seems calm, it does not automatically mean they are empty, not emotionless, not cold, not detached, just controlled. And sometimes that control was learned. In a Vietnamese family, a crowded classroom, a workplace meeting, or a tense conversation where staying quiet feels safer than explaining everything, a person may learn to reduce what others can see. They are not always hiding. They are not always pretending. Sometimes they are simply showing less than they are carrying, and that difference matters more than people realize. Now, there are 5 quiet signs you may notice in people who seem calm on the outside, but are still processing a lot beneath the surface. These are not labels. They are not diagnoses. They are patterns that can appear when someone has learned to manage what others are allowed to see. You may recognize them in a friend, a partner, a coworker, or even in yourself. And pay close attention to the last one, because it explains why some calm people can feel exhausted after situations where they barely said anything, even when the moment looked small from the outside. The first sign is that they pause before reacting. The first sign is that they pause before reacting. People may think you did not care because you did not respond instantly. They said something painful and you stayed quiet. They expected anger, tears, or a dramatic answer, but all they saw was a calm face and a few seconds of silence. But sometimes, the quietest reaction is not the absence of emotion. It is the management of emotion. In daily interactions, suppression and expression can be understood as 2 distinct emotion regulation processes. That means holding something back and showing something outwardly are not simply the same mechanism moving in opposite directions. They are different ways a person can organize what is happening inside while deciding what becomes visible outside. Imagine emotion like a message arriving too fast. For some people, the mind does not send it straight to the face. It sends it through a filter first. Should I show this? Should I speak now? Is this the right place? Will this make things worse? In a Vietnamese classroom, a family dinner, or a tense workplace conversation, that pause can look like indifference. In reality, it may be emotional editing. They might look away. They might smile lightly. They might change the topic for a moment, not because they felt nothing, but because showing everything immediately did not feel safe, useful, or controlled. So, instead of reading their silence as emptiness, read it as a possible gap between feeling and display. They are not blank. They are not untouched. They are being edited in real time inside them. The second sign is that they look fine in the moment but feel drained afterward. During the conversation, they may answer politely. They may nod, smile, keep their tone steady, and avoid making the situation bigger than it already is. Outside, calm. Inside, processing. Outside, respectful. Inside, replaying every sentence. This is where people misunderstand them. They think, if you were really hurt, you would have reacted. If you were really angry, your face would have changed. If it mattered, you would have said more. But emotional control can be costly. Not always, not for everyone, but for some people, constantly managing what becomes visible can take real mental energy. Suppression and expression can function differently in daily interactions, and they can relate differently to personal well-being and how relationships work. In simple terms, the way you hold emotion back is not the same as the way you express it, and both can shape what happens inside you and between you and other people. Imagine sitting at a family meal, a university discussion, or a workplace meeting in Vietnam, hearing something that touches a nerve, but choosing the safest face. You do not explode. You do not explain. You stay composed. Then later, on the ride home, everything returns. So the exhaustion is not weakness. It may be the after effect of staying emotionally organized when your inner world was anything but simple. They were not overreacting later. They were finally feeling what they had contained earlier after giving everyone else the quiet version of themselves inside for far too long. The third sign is that they do not share immediately, because they are still choosing the safest version of the emotion to say out loud. People think you are hiding the truth. In reality, you may be trying to translate it. Raw emotion can be messy. It arrives as heat in the chest, pressure behind the eyes, a sentence you almost say, then swallow. If you release it too quickly, it can sound sharper than you meant. If you hold it too long, it can make you seem distant. So the calm person often waits, not because they have nothing to say, but because they are searching for the version that will not damage the moment. This is especially familiar in places where harmony matters. At a Vietnamese family dinner, in a group chat, or during a tense office discussion, saying exactly what you feel can feel risky. So they edit. They soften. They turn the raw file into an edited version others can understand. Suppression and expression can relate differently to personal well-being and relationship functioning in social interactions. So this pattern is not just about being quiet. It can shape how connected a person feels and how connected others feel to them. This does not mean suppression is always healthy. It means the pattern is understandable. They are not always dishonest. They are not always avoiding you. Sometimes they are trying to make pain sound calm enough to be heard, without letting it become a storm that pushes everyone away from them before they are ready to speak. The fourth sign is that they are afraid of becoming an emotional burden. Have you ever said, "I'm fine," not because you were fine, but because explaining the truth felt heavier than carrying it alone? This is one of the quietest forms of emotional control. They minimize. They say, "It's nothing." They smile before anyone can ask too much. They make their pain smaller so the room does not have to become uncomfortable, not because the feeling is small, but because they do not want their feeling to become someone else's problem. In Vietnam, this can sound very familiar. You do not want your parents to worry. You do not want your friends to feel responsible. You do not want to be the person who makes a group chat serious. So you become easy to be around, calm, low maintenance, safe. Perceived emotion suppression focuses on the way people experience their own emotional withholding and the psychological processes that can connect that perception with lower psychological well-being. In plain language, it is not only about hiding emotion, it is also about what it feels like to know you are hiding it. That does not mean everyone who holds back is unhealthy. It means the inner meaning matters. Sometimes they are not trying to be dramatic. They are trying not to take up too much space. They are not emotionless. They are considerate to the point of disappearing. And the saddest part is that people may praise them for being easy without noticing how much of themselves they had to make invisible. The fifth sign is that they may remember the emotional weight of a moment longer than their face suggests. They looked over it. They smiled. They moved on. But later, the moment came back. A sentence, a pause, a look across the table, the way someone said something casually while it landed heavily inside them. To everyone else, the conversation ended. To them, it may keep echoing, not as a perfect memory of every detail, but as a feeling that still has not finished processing. This is not about claiming that calm people remember more than others. That would be too simple. What matters is that suppression is not only something that happens in the instant. It can also be studied through what happens afterward. In one emotion regulation study, participants viewed images under different instructions, then returned 1 week later for a recognition task. The images were also evaluated by valence and arousal, meaning by whether they felt pleasant or unpleasant, and how activating they were. In everyday life, that idea helps explain the feeling without exaggerating it. A person may not react strongly at the dinner table, in the office, or during a quiet ride through the city. But later, when everything is silent, the emotional file opens again. Not because they are dramatic, not because they are weak, but because the feeling was never fully expressed. It was stored, softened, and carried forward. They did not forget because they were calm. They remembered because they were quiet enough to feel the whole thing inside their own mind. So, if you recognize yourself in these signs, do not turn them into a label. Turn them into awareness. Being calm does not always mean being untouched. And feeling deeply does not mean you have to reveal everything to everyone. The real question is not, do I express enough, or do I hide too much? The real question is, do I understand what I am doing with my emotions? Because suppression and expression are different ways of regulating emotion. The way you perceive your own suppression can matter for well-being. And suppression is not only about the immediate moment, it can also be examined through what happens afterward. So do not romanticize silence, but do not shame it either. Sometimes silence protects you. Sometimes it separates you. Sometimes it gives you time to understand the storm before you speak. Comment below. Are you the type who reacts immediately, or the type who feels everything later in silence? And if this made you feel seen, subscribe to Obsidian Psychology, where we uncover the hidden patterns behind the person you became, with clarity, compassion, and a little more courage.